Now, over and over, God says what he created was good. But then after making humans, God says that it is very good.
So God is holy because he's morally perfect.
Yeah, that is part of it. But in the Bible, the idea of holiness is even bigger and more rich. What it's really describing is how God is the creative force behind the whole universe. He's the one and only being with the power to make a world full of such beauty and life. And so all these abilities, they make God utterly unique, which is the meaning of the word holy. It translates the Hebrew word chesed, which is hard to translate into any language because it combines the ideas of love, generosity, and enduring commitment all into one. Chesed describes an act of promise-keeping loyalty. Israel, the book of Leviticus, it worked. So despite Israel's failure, God has provided a way for their sin to be covered so that God can live with sinful people in peace. And that's what the book of Leviticus is all about.
Okay.
Jesus is here to begin the renewal of Israel. And he sees in Israel in whom there is no deceit. And so Nathanael's like, what? How do you know me?
Yeah. I guess that's not the point.
Yeah, he says, listen, I saw you sitting under the fig tree. This is Jesus the Riddler, the prophetic Riddler at work here. Yeah, there's a whole network of texts in Micah, Zechariah, and First Kings that talk about the golden age of Solomon or the golden age of Messianic kingdom, where every Israelite will sit under their own vine and fig tree.
This has been I mean, I cannot think of a greater gift to the church than the Bible Project right now. I mean, this is just such an incredible resource used by such a wide variety of people. I mean, I talk to people
responsible.
You might be putting Bible college professors out of business. No, I'm serious. So I remember a couple years ago, I really started watching a lot of videos, and I remember, and I was teaching Old Testament survey at a Bible college, small Bible college, and I would watch, as part of my preparation, I would watch a Bible college or a Bible Project video, like Psalms, on the Psalms.
Yeah, sure.
I'll never forget. A couple days before I'm going to give my lecture, and I said, I'm going to check out what Mackie and Collins have to say about this. I'd watch a video, jaw on the ground, thinking, I'm going to cancel class. I'm going to just have them watch the video like 5 times. And I'm going to give a quiz on that video because there's way more that you do in that video than I could ever do in a 2-3 hour lecture. Like, it's just I don't.
Yeah, one of our core values is generosity as an organization. And we really believe in the gospel generosity ecology, right? The ecosystem that generosity creates.
Reflecting on our ministries of teaching the scriptures in our local church communities. How do we create environments and experiences where we're really helping people in their engagement with the Bible? And
you have those. This is kind of like my how to navigate the Old Testament. This was kind of what was going on in my mind. Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. If you need a devotional time, like go to the Psalms, you'll find something good. That was a go-to book. Next one, Proverbs. Great advice in here, good for type A personalities. Ecclesiastes, feeling moody. Try this one. And then next, Song of Solomon. Isaiah, Jeremiah, these are crazy books. Hebrew poetry. But there's some good Christmas stuff in there. And when all else fails, preach from Romans.
Today, for the 2 listeners who have never heard of the Bible Project, give us a.
The Bible's the kind of book that's trying to mess with you. It's trying to challenge your currently held views about the world and about who God is, if you do or don't believe in God, or who you are, and what's true in the world, and what's really wrong in the world, and what's
this
right.
Is sort of the sweet spot for us, because what we're trying to do is get content to anybody who cares, just the non-specialist, the pastor. And what you do is just a perfect example of what we would like to see done just generally. I mean, stuff that needs to happen.
It's more that there's the symptomatic issues where people engage the Bible only in environments where you encounter little bits of the Bible out of context for your whole life. The joy of the scriptures is how much work it takes. Psalm 119, it's a joy.
Yeah.
You know?
You can trust that what you're getting in the videos. It's not just, eye candy. Okay. It's good stuff. It's good thinking distilled in a very comprehensible way.
So we are here with the legendary Dr. Tim Mackie.
The one and only.
The one and only pastor. More importantly, you're a skateboarder. And you're the only PhD I know that rides a skateboard to work.
This is with some of our favorite people. It is John and Tim and John from the Bible Project. You probably have checked out some of their videos and utilized it either in a seminary class or maybe for a youth night or shared with some of your leaders. If you haven't, you got to. It's great stuff, and there's so many of them.
So last week we had on our podcast John Mark Comer. Do you know him?
Who are you asking?
Yeah, he's a good friend.
He's a good friend. Well, there you go, because you're all in Portland, and everyone in Portland either makes craft beer together or apparently teaches theology together.
Or both.
Or both. Yeah.
Hey, Bridgetown Church, great to see all of you. I'm here with Dr. Tim Mackie, who is a dear friend, wonderful human being, also a Hebrew professor and the co-creator of the Bible Project right around the corner, which I think is one of the best things in our city.
Actually, the way most anything unfolds in the Bible isn't the way modern Westerners think of how a story works. It's meditation literature.
Got it.
Which means that from the very beginning, it's assumed that you've already read through the whole thing.
Right.
There's loaded into the first stories of the Bible all kinds of puzzles and ambiguities that you won't understand even what they mean until you get later on.
Because you're meant to meditate on it.
Totally.
Read it slow,
That's
deliberate,
right.
think,
Yeah,
wait,
it's a
pick
kind
up a piece of the puzzle.
Literature that's inviting a lifetime of rereading and discovery.
That Psalm 1 kind of meditates on
That's
the
right.
law.
Yeah, Psalm 1 isn't just like a nice thing of read your Bible every day. It's
Yeah.
actually designed not to give up its secrets on the first reading.
You are the co-founder of the Bible Project, which, if anybody does not know about that, is one of the best things on offer in the kingdom of God. Tim, how would you? I just love the work that you have been doing. So for anybody who is listening, if you do not subscribe to the Bible Project podcast, you need to go right now, drop what you're doing, subscribe, listen to that instead of this.
It's true. It's actually not hyperbole. It is that good.
It's that good.
Yeah, that's
and
Capture the genius, the creativity. I cannot recommend it enough. Tell us just a little.
That we are a church that doesn't want to just have real estate or lease here in the city. We want to be a church community of people who live, work, and play here in the core of the city. So practically, a disciple of Jesus is most effective when their community of relationships and community of church is connected in a close circle of friendship, work, recreation, so that it's a part of the neighborhood and a part
From the Bible Project. They're both fives, they work together, and we cover a lot of ground.
Tim and a few friends, they're all Hebrew scholars, and they all grew up skateboarding in Portland together.
Yeah.
And
That'd
it's
be a good
so
thing. Tim, you have a PhD in Semitic languages and biblical studies.
Yep.
You're teaching at Western Seminary, and you've been a pastor, and now
for me, it was a tool to help unlock some really undiscovered territory in my own temperament and value system. It's been very transformative tool for me in my marriage and discovering why I do the weird behaviors that I do.
I'm struck with how different the large-scale Christian community would be if more of us had these tools. And I say that having grown up within the Christian tradition and having come to places in my life where I was just on the verge and more or less had just thrown out the whole tradition. The myriad ways that the tradition and the ways of reading the Bible were handed to me by lots of different people, and the way that I constructed that methodology. I can't help but think how different our tradition would be if more people had these tools in front of them. To be able to see that much more of what's going on in these pages, how that would radically change the way that we read so much of it and the way so much of it is taught. I mean, I say it with a broken heart on a personal level, but then on a large scale level, I think of friends who haven't been as fortunate as me. Those friends have just thrown it out, and I've watched them completely walk away from it. Learning how to read the Bible is more important than telling you what a particular piece of the Bible means, There's so many ways you can go off the rails without those tools at the beginning or whatever of your journey.
My goals are pretty modest. We're going to explore the history of the formation of the entire Bible in like 70 minutes or something. I am going to talk a lot. Fire hose. You're going to I'm going to make you drink from a factual fire hose for the next hour. About the Bible, I just really want you to consider Jesus, like Jesus of Nazareth, and how amazing and remarkable he is. Followers of Jesus who have the same relationship to the Bible that you have with your strange uncle, right? Namely, that you were with him over the holidays, likely, and he's odd, and he's in your family, so you're supposed to like him, right? But he really behaves weird, and he does weird things, but he gives you gifts sometimes, and he's kind of nice, so you like him sometimes, but, most of the time, distance. If you've ever watched anything on the History Channel about the Bible, you need to never do that again. I trust that you know that taking a whole Saturday morning to hear somebody talk about the Bible, it's not normal behavior. And then I'm going to try and invite you into the fourth gospel, and then you all are going to sit with it, and I hope try and represent it to your own church communities. Holy cow. Dude, you guys, the Gospel of John. What's happening? 23. So here's 23 suggested messages to take a tour through the Gospel of John.
So my favorite part about today is learning all the incorrect things I've already preached. I really appreciate that.
Totally, I know.
Can we talk a little bit more? One of my great, oh no, moments was the woman at the well. And I'm glad I've had
talking with Tim Mackie from the Bible Project, and Tim has been working on a new project called Classroom, and it's very different than the animated videos that you guys have been creating previously. So what exactly is Classroom?
Yeah, well, it is exactly what it sounds like.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
helpful.
So that's essentially what we did. So we started hosting live classes, small classes, and we intentionally make everybody at the table representing a totally different kind of demographic within the kingdom of God. And we pick a book of the Bible, and then we just go. I'm like a tour guide, and then I just facilitate the conversation and point cool stuff out along 4 classes. And then we just want to invite professors in and create a whole seminary level kind of educational opportunity that's free online.
Yeah. You talk about removing barriers.
The story that Jesus saw himself bringing to its fulfillment and then inviting his followers into, it's a story that invites you to see the reality in a new way, to see yourself and your identity in a new way, to see other people in a new way, and then to not just as a set of ideas, but as a set of lived practices in a community that's following Jesus together and living by the Sermon on the Mount, as you try and embody the love and the message of Jesus. And so, but nothing can replace the individual creative being overwhelmed with the beauty and the message of the Bible. And when the Bible gets a hold of you and the story that it's telling, you can't keep it in. It, by the nature of what it's about, will force you to want to share it with others. And so
the world. If you're familiar with Dr. Mackie, you might also be familiar with the Bible Project podcast. He's interviewed people like
it's amazing.
Carmen Imes and N.T. Wright, guys that we've had on our show. We've also interviewed Dr.
Sorry to be awkward, but you'll make me uncomfortable if you call me doctor. Crucial. Okay. Actually, none of the biblical story will make sense if you don't understand the shape of the cosmos that's laid out in Genesis 1. So let's start there.
This is the human questions, right? And so those are all the right instincts. Like the Bible is meant to shape how I live and think and communicate the
the reality of God's presence and love to me. But the way ancient Jewish literature does those things is really different than how we tend to think of how narrative and poetry even communicate, or just the fact that
It's not Portland unless you have a few dogs in the office.
All right, well, there you go.
So over here, we've got our Old Testament and New Testament bathrooms.
Of course you do.
I went to 2nd through 5th grade in the building where our studio is now. I also got expelled from the 5th grade from when I was in this building. So
okay.
I didn't grow up reading the Bible. My parents didn't make me. I hated all things youth group. I never went. So I didn't saying or doing. Then it became crystal clear to me, oh, like Jesus, I'm reading like the 3rd act of a play. And I have no clue what the first 2 acts are about. Just like you would never watch the 3rd installment of a trilogy without ever thinking about the first one.
You know, and honestly, it wasn't until I was an adult and a pastor that I realized that the Bible is really telling one story.
Yes, totally.
I mean,
one way to think about it is that committing to follow Jesus, adopting his way of living and seeing and treating people and viewing myself and viewing God, none of that makes sense at all unless I understand it in the context of the big story that he sees himself as a part of. Just like you wouldn't watch just the 3rd movie of a trilogy only. And so the motivation for reading the Bible is because I want to follow Jesus.
A freshman student saying, oh, I watch these Bible videos on YouTube and you should watch them. And of course, the first thought, I'm sure. And so they sent me a link and I started watching one and I'm watching and watching going, wait, this doesn't suck. This is actually really good. Hey, wait, these guys know what they're doing. They actually are, they're doing real biblical theology. So semi-miraculous to me. I had to figure out what was going on in the world that someone was making these videos.
Yeah, can anything good come?
Tim, you know Travis Spott, right?
Yeah, that's
a friend
right.
of ours
we
who
both know.
teaches Old Testament. He showed me the New Heavens and New Earth video.
That for many people, especially if they've grown up in religious communities, they think they already know what these biblical texts are about, and so to defamiliarize them, it puts the fear of God in you to learn philology like nobody's business. But I'm glad it's over. I'll say that much.
Tim, could you explain P967 in one sentence?
Or 2.
It's an extremely important witness to the old Greek text of Ezekiel that should be pondered by a lot more scholars.
Okay,
it's on the list.
I need it for my class, so I might pitch you some other ones here later.
Are you guys ever going to crowdfund a verse-a-day calendar?
That will not happen.
Tim was joking around. We're really good friends with the YouVersion guys who do the Bible app.
But also I can say as a biblical scholar that I've learned so much from what you're doing, so thank you.
Little baby, his mom sees that he's good, and so she puts him into what? That's great. So New American Standards had wicker basket. The word basket is the word ark. The word ark, teva, appears in 2 stories in the Hebrew Bible. The story of Noah and right here. So Noah is put into a little mini ark, and he goes through the waters, doesn't he? Paul has this idea. It's precisely right here, which opens up the apocalyptic reality of all of this. The nature of reality, truth, reality as it truly is not even an idea that you need to learn. It's a person that you must encounter.
And it's my job to teach it. So what's helpful is to realize that you can only be bored by it if you assume that you have mastered it already, that you know what's going on, that it has. I mean, I think what's so brilliant about the way that this composition takes place is it kind of challenges you to go looking, and you can't see it unless you assume you have something to learn.
Yes. Of verses 1 through 3, where you get a worship session in verses 1 and 2,
And then Yahweh over the waters in verse 3 is repeated and in precise reverse order in the last stanza. Smeagol on the upper left, who is consumed and destroyed by the ring. And ironically, the one who is first consumed and destroyed by the ring will be the one to destroy it at the very end, but while destroying himself at the same time. It's as if the arc of Smeagol, who becomes Gollum, his narrative, an encounter with the ring, becomes a paradigm for what could happen to the whole narrative world. And so this is what the end result is, what Teeter calls it literary origami. Imagine Genesis 1 could be folded along two axes. You can fold it along the triads, and you get order and inhabitants matching, right, the triads. But then you can also fold it on a vertical axis, which is heaven and earth. Do you see this? Days 1 and 4 are heaven. Days 2 and 5 are the in-between. Days 3 and 6 are both deal with the land. The waters in this garden and the tree that's at the center of the garden. What John's trying to tell us is that the moment of Jesus being high and lifted up on the cross is the reality to which even the Garden of Eden has all been pointing.
The name of Jesus' hometown, at least as they move there after all of this, is up there at the top left, Nazareth. That's how you say Nazareth, Nazareth. And then in Greek, it got translated into Nazareth, and then there you go. That's the name of the town we have today. The word that that Isaiah uses right here, branch, the Hebrew word for that is natsir. Come on, that's clever. You're supposed to chuckle a little bit, I think, like, Matthew, that's brilliant. That's brilliant what you've done right there. So, natsir. And then that word, if you were to try and spell it in Greek letters, it's the word Nazareth means stick town. It's the sticks, literally. It's the sticks. And pun intended, by him, not me.
That's the upside-down kingdom of Jesus. And so Paul says, don't revolt. Don't revolt. It's just the wrong move. You won't be faithful to Jesus as king of the nations if you do that. And so there you go. Like, that's what Paul says. There are lots of people who wish that he hadn't written these words, but he did write them, and I think that he meant them. And what he calls them to do is to pray for these leaders, pray that God's justice will come on these leaders, and then to submit to their authority, and in their own community live out the upside-down kingdom of Jesus. And this is essentially the political theology of the New Testament. No matter who's in charge, you pray for them like crazy. You come under their authority, even if they're corrupt, because you know that they actually have someone that they're accountable to, whether they acknowledge it or not. And then you use every resource and opportunity that you have as you pray for peace in your land to share the good news about the risen King Jesus.